Alright, let's try out some mouthpieces. Oh, missed a note. That's not it. This mouthpiece's fault. That's alright, it's a little better. It's pretty comfortable. There it is. That's most comfortable. And it's the most shiny. Most important consideration. So, hey, I'm Burger Bob. I'm going to talk to you about equipment choice today. And some considerations on why you should switch, why you should not switch, and, things to look for in an instrument, just generally. So I give you a little example here of maybe what some of us have gone through before, like maybe you're not happy with your mouthpiece, or maybe your mouthpiece isn't shiny enough anymore, and you just get a bunch of one place, and you sit down, and you play a bunch of stuff on them, and you're like, wow, this one is obviously the most expensive, and it's shiny, so I'm going to go with that one. And then you use it, and maybe that's just fine, but I'm going to give you some more, maybe better considerations on why to switch and what to switch. So I'm going to give you 3 big considerations for reasons to switch. The first one is playing level. So we don't get a national leaderboard, and we're not ranked as who's the best trombone player, who's second best, who's in the top 50. We don't get something like that, but you need to be cognizant of how well you play and how well you know an instrument, right? And that factors in really heavily into why you would switch and why you would not switch instruments, mouthpieces, lead pipes, all sorts of things, right? And you need to be cognizant. Are you in middle school? Some of you guys watching this video might be in middle school, and that's totally fine. I was too a long time ago, and I was really, really bad at euphonium. That's what I played. And if I had gotten this euphonium, I have a Yamaha, as a 6th grade student, I would have been super happy. I would have loved it. I probably would have practiced maybe a little bit more, but would it be worth $8,000 for me to get this shiny new euphonium as a 12-year-old? Probably not. And it worked out in the end, and I'm doing totally fine now, so, it wasn't a huge loss. Even as a high school student, if you have some kind of instrument that doesn't have a million dents and you can move the slide and sound comes out of the bell end and, you can play it, then a lot of times you're going to be just fine. And sometimes, you might get some kind of used instrument or something. Even going into college, you'll get some cheaper used instrument. Guess what? That's what I did. I got a Holton bass for $1,600, and it lasted me for 5 entire years of college playing. I may have needed to upgrade a little bit before those 5 years were up, but it lasted me that whole time, and I did just fine. And that was $1,600. That was not a $5,200 Shires or an Edwards or what have you, right? So I saved a lot of money. I saved a lot of time searching for things. You kind of get the idea. You need to know what your playing level is and whether you need to switch or not. And, of course, that means you have to be good enough to notice the differences. If you play 2 instruments that are slightly different, maybe even the same model, and you can't tell any differences between them, then maybe you don't need to switch. You're just fine on what you have, and you need to just, practice, do a lot of stuff until you figure out what those differences are and how they affect you, right? For me, I just switched lead pipes for the second time in a year. After going and playing a bunch of Shires parts at Horn Guys here in California, I figured out my lead pipe was why I've been having issues. So I tried about a bunch of stuff, and then I kind of narrowed it down to one thing, and I switched lead pipes, and now I can play a little better. And that's just how it is. You have to put yourself on a spectrum of person who can't play trombone to Joe Alessi. Joe Alessi, he'll take his slide lock and he'll move it a millimeter, and then he'll be able to play 0.3% better on these kind of notes. And he'll know that exactly because he is so dialed into his equipment and his face and his playing that he knows any kind of difference will make a difference, right? And you have to put yourself on that spectrum somewhere. I'm probably near the can't play trombone end rather than the Joe Alessi end, but I can still tell, I changed slides and stuff at the Shire shop, And I was like, whoa, that's a huge difference. And I changed bells. I was like, that's if I played it for 6 months, I might sound a little bit different later, but it wasn't that big of a difference. You have to put yourself on that spectrum. So the next big consideration is playing situation. Where do you play your instrument? For me, I'm in college. I play legitimate or classical bass trombone in several ensembles, and I play solo stuff. I play in like an orchestra, and I play in the studio, and that's pretty much it. So I play an all yellow bass trombone based on the Bach 50 with a semi-largish mouthpiece. Ta-da! Pretty stock setup as bass trombones go, and it gets me probably like 97% of what I need every day. Ta-da! I don't need. I mean, I could really dial this in and spend a bunch of money and get parts that are just right for me. Like going to the Shire's factory or whatever it would happen to me. But I don't really need to do this because this gets the job done, and I'm not quite good enough, and I'm not in a situation where I need to upgrade, as it were. And like if I played in a jazz band playing third trombone, as opposed to bass trombone, I would not use this. I would use a slightly, medium, large tenor trombone of some sort. I don't even know exactly what because I'm not in that situation. But you need to use the right tool for the job. And Sam Burtis, he's always like, on the trombone form, he's always like, use the right tool for the job. And, just don't be that guy who's playing bass trombone and first trombone or using an alto to play euphonium parts or whatever happens to be. Use the right tool for the job. And maybe you don't know what the right tool is. You'll figure it out. Just practice more. And like on the same tangent, think of the people around you. You want to blend with them. You want to sound good next to them. You want to make them happy. It's not always about you, right? It's not always the ego. And maybe the guy on the front waving the stick wants you to play something else. You got to listen to what they say. The third and biggest consideration, I think, as a not Bill Gates, is cost. So we're lucky that trombones don't cost $1 million. They don't even cost a fraction of $1 million. I mean, they're pretty cheap as instruments go. My girlfriend plays bassoon. All right, trust me, trombones are cheap. So even so, trombones are not actually cheap. They cost thousands and thousands of dollars. So especially if you're like in college and you have the option of taking out student loans. And I don't want to make huge generalizations or anything, but I would say you probably shouldn't be taking out $10,000 student loans to buy your dream horn as like a freshman or a sophomore or something like that. Just because as a financial decision, it's probably not the best idea. You kind of have to think of it like this, right? If you take out $100,000 in loans, if you go to a really nice school and it costs a lot of money, and then you take out some, buy a nice instrument, you have to think of yourself as being worth $100,000, right? Personally, I'm not worth $100,000. There's no way. I mean, that's what principal players in top orchestras make in a year, right? That's pretty good pay for what they do. But like, if you're worth that much money, then you probably don't need to take out student loans because you're getting full scholarship or you're already that good and you're 17 years old or whatever. So, I mean, if you have a horn that's really holding you back in some way, and, I skipped over that. If you have a horn that is really holding you back, then, go ahead, spend the student loan money as long as you know you're going to be able to pay that off with the money that horn is going to make you. Personally, I buy completely used horns after waiting a very long time and swapping things to other people and like trading horns around, and so I get crazy good deals on things and I don't spend a lot of money on instruments. That's just how I do it. That's since music is a hard business as a musician myself, I feel like spending $6,000 on a bass would probably not be financially viable. If it is, then go for it. Buy whatever you need. I mean, if you have the money, then spend it. But for most of us starving college students, it's probably not a good idea to spend a bunch of money. And, maybe as a high school student, your parents can buy it for you, but maybe they can't. Maybe they can't, take the kind of chunk of change to buy an instrument. I mean, that's just how it is. So really appreciate how much things cost and how it might affect you in the future. All right, so second section, we're going to talk about two really broad categories for how an instrument, or what you should look for in an instrument, right? First category is playability. How easy is the horn to play? I mean, that's the best way to put it. And, you know, put it on, here's another spectrum. Woo, we got a spectrum. We got, I'll turn this around for you guys to see better. We got horns that you literally can't blow through all the way to, I don't know, something really easy to play. And your horn should be somewhere near, probably near the easier to play, right? I mean, that's why I just made this lead pipe switch. I was having trouble with certain notes speaking, and I swapped lead pipes. Now they're easy to play. So that's playability. That's just how exactly easy it is to play. And let's see, what did I say about this? It's really important, but it's not always the first consideration. We'll talk about that in a second. And that's, it's things like flexibility, dynamics, articulations, valves, range, how well the slide moves. I mean, just really simple things can attribute to playability. And it's really important, like having a horn that you can just like move the slide on makes a huge difference. My slide on this is really good, so when it's lubed up, I actually play better than if it kind of sucks. So the second big category for how a horn, like what you should look for in a horn, is sound, and it's really hard to define. Like I don't even like talking about it, but you have to know what you want to sound like first, and so like it takes a lot of catching up to do to be like, oh, I have an idea of what I want to sound like. Boom, now I can get all this stuff and I actually know what I want to sound. Oh man, it's huge. But you have to get to that point first. You need to go and listen to people live. You need to get CDs. I mean, it just takes a lot of work to actually know what you want to sound like. And that's probably the larger consideration of the two when you're looking for an instrument. At least for me. And we'll talk about this now. Your horn should be a balance of those two things. Playability, sound. For me, I mean, I don't even know what this horn's like balance-wise, but it's pretty even. Like, I can play it pretty well. It's pretty easy to play, and it sounds really good for what I do. Like, the sound I have in my head, it's pretty darn close. And some, let's see, what did I have on here? Yeah, there's two extremes that I like to think of, right? The easy-to-play category. We have Edwards over here somewhere. Really easy to play, and certain models, I would say, like the Getson Customs, are like really easy to play, and the sound, for me, my opinion, is kind of lacking. There's not a lot to it. They just sound really big, and that's pretty much it. There's not a lot of nuance going on in the sound, and for some people that's great because they can make the nuance here or with their brains or whatever. For me, they just sound really boring. That's just how it is. So they're really easy to play, though. And for some people, that's a bigger consideration. So they're like, it's easier to play. I can get the sound in my head better when I can just do whatever I want with my playing. And so that's really important for them. And then on the other end, I have old con trombones, like the 70H that I don't have here right now. Is tuning and slide. It's like beat to hell. It is like the bell is almost touching the slide. But it sounds so good. I put in my George Roberts mouthpiece, which is not this. I don't know why I picked it up. And it just, it sounds so amazing, but it's not easy to play. Like, you can't play loud. You can't really nail articulations. You can't just play pedal C. Like, you can't play high C that well. But the sound is there. So that's the other way. People are like, you know what? I just want to sound really good, and I'll work on the playing to make it, sound easier. Maybe it's not actually easy. So there's the two extremes there, and for me, I like something in the middle. This doesn't sound quite as nuanced and as awesome as the 70H, but it's not quite as easy to play as an Edwards. But I like to think I have a nice middle ground. So think of those two things as you're looking at horns, and I'll say this, that a lot of people fall into the pitfall, especially younger players, of easy to play. They're like, man, this is so easy to play high F on. Their graph is like this, easy to play and sound. They just, they have no sound in their heads. They just kind of play trombone, and it's easy to play. And that can be a good thing. You know, you can get better at trombone that way. But maybe think about the other side too. Um, and so, what do you do when you change instruments? Like I said, you have to have something in your head first. You need to know what you're going for. Don't just be like, I'm going to get a new trombone for no reason, and I don't know what I'm going to get. I don't even know if I'm going to get a bass or tenor. No, you need to have like an idea in your head. Like I went to horn guys because my horn had been holding me back in a certain way. Like I couldn't play below the staff at like the right dynamic with immediate sound the way I want to, and that was really aggravating me. So I went there and I was like, okay, this is what I'm looking for, and I tried out a bunch of stuff. Kind of got an idea in my head, and I swapped lead pipes. Problem solved. You need to have that idea first, and then you can go look at stuff. Um, Second thing is long trial periods. Maybe you buy something first and then you try it. That's kind of how I do things. Um, I bought all this stuff, and then I was like, all right, I'm just going to play it now. And I played it for 2.5 years or something like that. That's just how it goes. Play things for a long time so you know they work or they don't work. Don't swap things in and out really fast on like a daily basis for months, because then you're never going to settle into anything. I played, I think, this lead pipe for like 6 months before I got this one. And then I played this one for like a year, and then I swapped back to this. So I really knew that it wasn't quite working for me. Same with this mouthpiece. I got it from a friend of mine. I started using it, and I've just kept using it. I've not swapped anything out. I mean, I haven't played on another mouthpiece on bass in months. It felt really weird, actually. Because I really wanted to get used to that mouthpiece. Even if it doesn't work for me in the long run, I want to get good at it. So there you go. There's some considerations. Hopefully this video isn't too long. And I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.